I respect Monday Night Football. I make sure our team does. I just appreciate it from a fan's perspective, somebody that loves football, that grew up pre-Sports Center, man. Howard Cosell gave you the highlights from the day before, and that's about all you saw. And then after halftime, my mom would make me go to bed. And so I just love and respect it, and want to be prepared for it and put my best foot forward. But
and under head coach Mike Tomlin, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 19-3 on Monday Night Football. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. I'm Missi Matthews with Bob Pompeani to talk about the 24-17 win. It maybe felt like they had it in the first half. Things got a little wonky in the third. But what's your biggest takeaway from this win, moving them to 4-7?
Biggest takeaway was the run game without two of their top runners, Missy. That's the whole thing. Najee Harris gets injured midway through this game. He leaves, abdomen problem. But we knew going into this that Jaylen Warren was not going to be available. And then you look at the breakdown here. Benny Snell, the more attempts he has, it seems like the more production he produces over the years. It's a small sample size, but 5.2, that's pretty healthy. Kenny Pickett used his legs to his advantage, and Anthony McFarland, who hadn't done anything all year because he's been on the practice squad. When you put it all together, 172 is pretty impressive, and that's back-to-back good rushing weeks.
We've seen it pretty much the past 3 games where the run game has been really helping the Steelers offense. What do you attribute it to, considering earlier in the season it just seemed to not work? There were not holes open and they just could not get it together.
One word: commitment. Just deciding that we're going to do it if you're a coaching staff and doing it. And I think the offensive linemen always will applaud that. They like that mentality first and foremost. It gets them more engaged into the game. And then, you know, if you get a couple of nice runs, what it does is it extends drives, it keeps your defense off the field, and we saw that was a problem early in the season with the Steelers. But that it just, you know, makes your statement that, hey, we're coming after you, you know what's going to happen, try to stop it. And Benny Snell last night at times was not stoppable. He was cutting back, finding open holes, following his blocking, and I think that sets up play action in the run game, in the pass game as well.
I think another thing, too, we've been able to see the Steelers score on opening drives, and even in the first quarter, something that they were really hampered with earlier in the season. So you have more liberty playing with a lead to run the ball. But as we heard from Kenny Pickett following the game, a lot of the credit goes to the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we lean on those guys. We go the way those guys go. Our backs did a phenomenal job, the tight ends in the run game, so there's a lot that goes into it. But, you know, that group we have up front, man, we were pretty tight. You know, they're real tight together. They have great continuity. And, you know, it's great to see, you know, from early in the season what people were saying to now and how great those guys are playing. You know, incredibly proud, you know, to be those guys' to be their quarterback and, you know, play with them.
Bob, what have you seen specifically from Kenny Pickett following the bye week? It seems like he's rejuvenated and everyone's kind of following his lead, and we've been seeing great things from this offense. No
question. It starts with protection of the football. No interceptions in the last 3 games, and I think that's on his mind. But he hasn't given up the ability to make plays, even though he knows he's thrown into traffic. He puts the ball on the money. The other thing that take away is accuracy. For a young player to come in and put the ball in places where only his receiver or running back can get it is so important, especially with yards after catch. The more of this you see, the more maybe slant patterns you will see over the middle to spring people like Deontay Johnson, who has the speed to break away from defenders. But the accuracy, the poise, the maturity, and the confidence. We heard stories about that game-winning touchdown in Indianapolis, Missy, about he was the guy who came and said, this Benny Snell play is the one we're going to have. And he was adamant about it. So he knew his player, Snell, because they've worked together a lot during preseason or whatever, and he also knew what his offensive line was capable of doing. And there you see the play, but Gunnar Olszewski with a nice block too.
I think also, you know, a lot of times when the pressure's coming, he doesn't really flinch. He's able to stand in there. And, you know, before it was, as coach said, Kenny sometimes gets Kenny in trouble. But I think these past few games, we've been able to see him adjust on the fly, as we saw just a few plays ago. Pressure coming, no one's open, can't find a guy, and he just uses his legs and is able to get the first down. Now
that play right there too. I mean, he knew he was getting blitzed right up the middle. He stood in there, made the play. He's done that a lot. I thought last week he did it a couple of times.
Oh yeah.
Against the Bengals, he just was willing to take the hit and make a play, and he put it right on the money.
All right, let's flip over and talk about the Steelers' defense. I don't want to say a tale of 2 halves similar to the Bengals game, but that third quarter, it just really seemed like things just really took a turn for the worst.
Well, yeah, they 3 and outs. He was 0 for 3 was picking in that third quarter, and right off the bat, they get a big kickoff return to set the stage for their first score, and everything, the momentum changes. But I thought they regrouped. Overall, I thought, this was the best that we've seen Kenny Pickett from start to finish. There have been halves, good, second half not so good like we saw in the Cincinnati game, but this was a consistent effort. And then the defense had to come up with some plays, which they did. So bottom line was they let it get away from a little bit, but then regroup, got a game-winning drive at the end, and I thought that was huge as well. But, clearly Matt Ryan is not the same Matt Ryan. And
he's not Matty Ice.
No, and he isn't. And he didn't, I shouldn't say they didn't use the run game as much as I thought they would. I thought they were going to lean heavily on Jonathan Taylor.
I think also, credit to the Steelers defense up front, who's been doing a good job of stopping the run. They knew going in, we were sitting here last Tuesday, Coach Tomlin said, we have to stop and contain Jonathan Taylor. And I think, as you said earlier, the stats may say, oh, okay, he had a decent game, but as long as run was 13 yards. What's one thing you want to see the Steelers defense clean up for the Falcons?
Well, I would say, again, more pressure. I want to see more pressure. You got a guy like Mariota who's going to be using his legs much more than we saw here from Ryan or Brady or Andy Dalton or any of those guys. So you got to be good in your containment, but also put a little pressure, because I've noticed the numbers suggest that when Mariota is under pressure in the pocket, he has a hard time making plays. And if they do that consistently, it should help their secondary. We saw James Pierre make a good play the other night, and others, but they got to step up more and do what Terrell Edmonds did just there and put pressure on the quarterback.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me here today, Bob, and thanks to you for watching at home. This has been the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. We'll see you guys next week.